contract signings, title celebrations. Welcome to all the WTF moments from this week's WWE Raw. Nah, that was actually AEW Dynamite we watched last night on the television screen, and while some parts of the show were an absolute mess and didn't land whatsoever, they were sort of overshadowed by something monumental that happened and something that was littered with nuanced and intertwining storytelling, and oh, how nice is it to see all of that kind of stuff happening on a pro wrestling show once again. It's absolutely glorious to see. I am Sideshow Ross from Cultaholic.com, and here are all your WTF moments from last night's AEW Dynamite, which was definitely not WWE Raw. Hit the intro man. WTF! And fans inside the arena, it reminds you of the old days, so it does. I hope they were all safe. I assume they were all safe, but it looks like AEW have finally done something that has been happening up here in my neck of the woods in Newcastle upon Tyne for the last little while now. We now live in a world up here in Newcastle upon Tyne where we can go to gigs that have little pods littered here, there and everywhere. So I've been asking myself for the last little while now, why couldn't inside a professional wrestling arena like Daly's Place in Jackson, Florida, have the fans dotted about here, there and everywhere? And it looks like AEW have done just that last night to great effect from what I've seen on the Twitter machine. Good on them. It made a massive difference hearing real proper fans doing what real proper fans would do at a wrestling show. Fantastic stuff. And then we hear Jim Ross gets a name wrong, and I know what you're saying, Ross. Jim Ross getting a name wrong as we're stood here in... It's nearly bloody September of 2020. That can't be a WTF moment anymore. He does it every single pissing week. But I'm here to say he did it so bad this week, I had to mention it. He is the ratings god, he said about Chris Jericho, and this is starting to get a bit out of hand on AEW Dynamite, so it is. The name of Jericho, just get it right, man. Last week on Dynamite, we heard Taz getting the single most used nickname in pro wrestling history over the past year or so, at least anyway. He got that wrong. He called Le Champion Chris Jericho La Champion Chris Jericho, and now we've got Jim Ross doing this. And while I sort of agree with Jim Ross, because I too, just like Jim Ross, want to forget about the ratings, I want to forget about the demos, I want to forget about all the bollocks none of us fans should really care about. Let's allow the executives to care about that load of bollocks, man. But Jim Ross calling the demo god the ratings god has got to be called out. JR, you would not call your good pal Stone Cold Steve Austin the Lone Star Rattlesnake, would you? It's the same thing but a different name. And then Big Dick Tony Schiavone came swinging in like the big dick that he has, and he got Chris Jericho's name wrong as well. You'll never get this right. Sit down, because this is earth-shattering news. He called Chris Jericho not the ratings god, not even the demo god. He called him the Demo god. A Demo god? And I know Chris Jericho's a fan of that hip-hop and happening band, Kiss. But Chris Jericho is not, and I repeat not, he is not any kind of demon. Dale Torborg is the man. But again, I've got to ask the question as we see Le Champion, a little bit of the bubbly, the demo god himself, Chris Jericho, make his way onto commentary for an episode of AEW Dynamite. Outside of kayfabe, it makes absolute sense, because as we all know, Chris Jericho is absolutely fantastic on AEW commentary duty. He takes the piss out of everything, he has a laugh at everything, but at the same time, most importantly, he puts over everything he is taking the piss out of and having a laugh at. It's a wonderful talent Chris Jericho has, and all the better he's good, isn't he? But inside of kayfabe and storytelling on AEW Dynamite, I want you to tell me, what is the kayfabe storyline reason Chris Jericho keeps getting on AEW commentary? Maybe it's Tony Khan. Maybe Tony Khan actually does believe that Chris Jericho is the demo god. Ooh. Nose, knob, head, get it over the nose as well, will you, man? I just kind of get me head round it. How do people find it so hard? It's so easy. Just do it, man. Now, as we all know, not all WTF moments have to be negative, so I'm stood here and I want to make it a massive a huge WTF moment, the little flurry of action Dustin Rhodes had with the Young Bucks at the start of that gauntlet match at the start of last night's Dynamite. WTF moment, and then some, I'm telling you. Despite being 51 years of age, despite debuting inside the squared circle of the professional wrestling ring all the way back in 1988, Dustin Rhodes was able to stand and roll and flip and go toe-to-toe with the Young Bucks, who are, by the way, as quick as a hiccup, as Jim Ross likes to say. And of course, there's one question surrounding this WTF moment, and that's, Dustin, how? How the bloody hell do you do it, you mental bastard? And then we have a direct quote from Le Champion himself, Chris Jericho, when he says, "I want to see the Elite plying their trade in the ring, Jim Ross. That's why you'll never see me on Being the Elite." Well, Chris, who be that then? Unless, of course, that man there and the Demo God himself, Tony Schiavone's words, not mine, unless those two people are different. And then we get back to Le Champion once again. He takes all the headlines when he's on the commentary, doesn't he? This time he says, "I call the shots around here, Jim Ross. I've got the pencil, if you know what I mean." And I know what you mean, Chris, you saucy bugger. And I'm shocked. And by saying that, I mean I'm not shocked. Of course Chris Jericho has control over his creative, over what he does in AEW. But also, I'm shocked at the same time, but I'm not shocked. But I'm also shocked. And then we have Chris Jericho back this time saying, just in case the fans watching this week's Dynamite at home are wondering what the difference is between taking a bump inside the middle of the ring and taking a bump on the apron of the ring, well, the apron is the hardest part of the ring. And I was thinking, Chris Jericho, how low is your opinion of professional wrestling fans, you prick? What kind of a professional wrestling fan does not know the apron is the hardest part of the ring? Everyone knows the apron is the hardest part of the ring. Everyone knows when you become a fan of pro wrestling, you get the Pro Wrestling Fan Handbook, page 1. Option 1, wear black t-shirt. Option 2, apron, hardest part of the ring. It's there on the first page, right at the top. So just in case that was your first ever pro wrestling show last night, you knew it already, didn't you? Now, even though Hangman Page costing the Young Bucks in that gauntlet match makes absolute sense when you remember last week on Dynamite, FTR got inside Hangman Adam Page's ear. No, not literally. They do appear to be on the short side, but they're not that short, man. They claimed if the Bucks won that gauntlet match, they could beat Hangman and Kenny Omega for the AEW Tag Team titles. So scared that might actually happen, Hangman cost the Bucks, stop that potential match from happening. It all makes sense. First of all, it was a clever way not to have FTR versus the Young Bucks happening on a random episode of AEW Dynamite, even though it looked like it was going there at one stage. We're gonna be gagging for it by the time it comes. Gonna be gagging for it. When it finally happens, the release is gonna be fantastic. All of that wrapped up, all of that stuff that makes absolute sense. Do not stand there and tell me that was not a massive WTF moment. Do not stand there and tell me, dear viewer, when you saw Hangman Page wrap his arms around the legs of a book, you weren't shouting at home, WTF is that man doing? It's just unbelievable and really believable logical scenes at the same time. So conflicting. So 1 second referee Rickety Knox is like, well, they made a blind tag, Cash Wheeler is the legal man. The next second he's like, oh my god, that's not Cash Wheeler, that's Dax Hardwood. And even though I'm supposed to be the tag team specialist referee in AEW, to bollocks with it all. Let's count the pinfall anyway, even though I know, because I just said Dax Harwood is not the legal man. What the hell is going on there? It just beggars belief sometimes, and that is a prime example. I know I stand here each and every week, it seems, going, tag team matches, rules, they don't go together in AEW, but this just takes the biscuit. And I was thinking FTR have it written in their AEW contracts, proper tag team rules must be abided by during their matches. This, in my opinion, is a breach of contract, and Rickety Knox should be fined heavily. Now, these Darby Allin promo packages, they shouldn't really make it into WTF moments, because we know that Darby Allin, he's just a little bit eccentric. On his day off, he likes to climb a ladder and set himself on fire. Who doesn't like to do that, man? It's a lovely Sunday afternoon spent well. But last night on Dynamite, we saw him trying to prove to Ricky Starks that he isn't scared of Ricky Starks. So instead of just going, Ricky Starks, I'm not scared of you, pal, Darby Allin saw fit to climb a massive bridge, get to the top of a massive bridge, and then jump off that massive bridge into a river. No CGI involved. And I'm just thinking, Darby, you don't have to go to these lengths, Bonnie lad, but it's nice that you do. We do appreciate it. You mental man. And then we have a direct quote from Jim Ross himself, who says, Jake's almost orgasmic, and that's a scary thought. So we have horny Jim Ross from Twitter calling horny Jake Roberts from AEW horny. That's a thing that happened. We really have peaked in the world of professional wrestling after that little thing there. Bloody hell. And then speaking about horny Jake Roberts, we all know that he gets turned on by watching Lance Archer beat up men. He has said that on the record on a past episode of AEW Dynamite. But after Lance Archer beat up a poor defenseless man, Jake Roberts turned to the crowd, and I don't want to know who he was looking at, but he did the old Mickie James thing from WrestleMania, Trish Stratus. You know what we're going for? Yeah, oh God. And then Darby Allin drop-kicked Ricky Starks right out of those shoes that look like me pair of slippers I've got at home. And I'm only making this a WTF moment with recent AEW history fresh in the mind, because a few weeks ago on AEW, we saw Ricky Starks wearing those really not practical shoes whatsoever. I wear them at home, they are my slippers. I try to run up the stairs, I get a little bit of a jog on, and they're flying off in every direction like Matt Riddle's flip-flops. But Ricky was doing all kinds of professional wrestling maneuvers while wearing these things that come off at the slightest flick of a heel, and they were staying on his feet, and I could not believe my eyes. When he was doing those professional wrestling maneuvers, I guess Ricky Starks' feet must have been sticky Starks. That's the content we're here for, go on. But last night the shoes came off, even though they were under a lot less stress than they were a few weeks ago. It's weird times we live in, everybody. 2020 is a weird year. And then Jim Ross tells us all that the contract for Jon Moxley versus MJF at All Out was faxed to Jon Moxley. And in this moment, it would appear we learned that Jon Moxley has a fax machine. What's me voice doing? I've got no idea, but it is shocking, isn't it? Jon Moxley and a fax machine. Oh, that lady isn't smiling, even though MJF says she always must smile. That lady there has turned heel on MJF, which means she's actually turned babyface in real life because MJF's a dick. A dick who went on for a little bit too long last night, didn't he? Normally, as we all know, MJF's promos are absolutely fantastic. So fantastic, they fly by. But that one last night, it went round in circles. It dragged on for way too long. And I've got to ask the question again, because heading into watching last night's Dynamite, I was thinking, well, MJF, he's a very clever professional wrestling heel. He'll address the main issue with him trying to get the Paradigm Shift banned for that match at All Out. The main issue being, of course, that Jon Moxley has more than one professional wrestling maneuver that he can finish a professional wrestling match with. He sees a weakness on his opponent, he then targets that weakness, Brian Cage and his popped bicep or whatever, and that arm thing he did to cause Taz throwing in the towel. It says hello MJF, but they didn't address that once again, therefore WTF MJF. Imagine, right, just imagine for a second not being a professional wrestling fan. Imagine being an uncool arsehole who does not like professional wrestling. Imagine, right, you sat there watching television last night, you're flicking through the channels, and somehow you end up on that screenshot there, and you read Homicide saved New York. What would you be thinking? And I tell you one thing I did not expect to see heading into this week's AEW Dynamite, and it was that thing there. That thing there is a meme come to life. I think it's a fresh meme, a new meme, a hot steaming meme that has come to life. I've got no idea if it is indeed fresh or hot or steaming because I'm old, but it looks like that meme. You know the meme I'm talking about. It's a meme. The lawnmowers. Apparently, that's a reference from Being the Elite. But since I don't watch Being the Elite, and since the commentators didn't say anything to fill in the gaps, I didn't understand what was going on at all. It went over my head, just like the lawnmower to that man in Home Alone 3. A fantastic, underrated Home Alone, so it is, yes it is. But lawnmowers? Pro wrestling, not the Mexicools, or not Broken Matt Hardy. We need to call upon our pal, Gimmick Infringement Kane, who sees examples of gimmick infringement happening on professional wrestling shows, and then he goes and hurts the people, the perpetrators, the criminals, the offenders who are committing the gimmick infringement. Now you see, Dark Order, Gimmick Infringement Kane has seen your gimmick infringement, therefore he's coming to do some serious pain to you, my pals. He's going to get Brodie Lee shampoo, and he's going to replace Brodie Lee shampoo with hair removal cream, so Brodie Lee looks more like Gene Snitsky. Gimmick Infringement Kane has the rhymes. Oh, so there's Matt Cardona. And I was asking the question, surely I could not have been the only person asking this question. Where was Matt Cardona where Cody Rhodes was being murdered? There was a coffin on last night's show. He was murdered. And I'm afraid I've got to bring back the devastation that is Gimmick Infringement Kane once again, because it would appear that Hangman Adam Page has found, of all things in the world of professional wrestling today, or yesterday, or last year, when it was a thing, I can't remember, but Adam Hangman Page has found Mojo Rawley's broken mirror, and Gimmick Infringement Kane does not like that. Hangman found this mirror in the midst of another WTF moment slightly, where the Young Bucks said to Adam Page, Hangman, you're out of our club, you're not cool anymore, you're not cool like the Young Bucks, to which Adam Hangman Page said, well pals, I've not really been in for the past year, go away you nerds. They are nerds, aren't they? They're unlikable nerds. But speaking of mirrors and Hangman Page, you're probably asking yourselves, what's Gimmick Infringement Kane gonna do to Adam Hangman Page for committing gimmick infringement? You see, Kane, he has a bottle of Goldschlager. You know the drink from when you were a teenager, and your cool friends used to say, well, you drink this and it's got tiny shards of glass in it, and the shards of glass cut your throat, and the alcohol gets in your system quicker, even though that got proven to be absolute bollocks, apparently, maybe. So Kane has got a bottle of Goldschlager for Adam Hangman Page, but it's actually got shards of mirror in it, and he's gonna try to attempt to kill Adam Hangman Page. And wouldn't you just know it, Gimmick Infringement Kane is back once again. He is back because he has seen more gimmick infringement, and wouldn't you believe it, Gimmick Infringement Kane started singing after he saw that shot there from last night's Dynamite. He started singing, whoa, it's only Dr. Baker, whoa. But Gimmick Infringement Kane has told me he's not going to do anything to Britt Baker because Britt Baker is fantastic. And yet more! Gimmick Infringement Kane has gone home. Gimmick Infringement Kane does not get paid enough to appear as much as he has appeared in this WTF Moments for last night's Dynamite, because Gimmick Infringement Kane saw that red book there. That red book there, it's similar to this red here. It says join us on there, and Dark Order. We all know who started using the phrase join us first in the realms of professional wrestling. It was Cultaholic Wrestling, and you're on TNT with your more exposure and your more money and your more better things in every single way than us here at Cultaholic, nicking our thing. You can have it. What are we going to do? We've got no money. We've got nout. We've got out. And I don't know if it was just me at home asking this question as well, but I need to know who ran long on last night's Dynamite, because surely the main event match pitting Matthew Hardy against Sammy Guevara in a tables match, surely that should not have been as much as in picture-in-picture as it was. 3/4 of the match took place during adverts. That can't have been right. Who ran long? And just in case you missed last week's AEW Dynamite, the final of that women's tag team tournament took place, and Eva Lise and D.M.D, they won the bloody thing. But you wouldn't have known that watching last night's Dynamite, because they didn't follow it up at all. Eva Lise and D.M.D, they were in the crowd but didn't do anything, even though they won the prestigious trophy with its silly chocolate gold medals. If you've seen the medals, you know what I'm talking about. But of course, this shouldn't be too much of a shock to anybody, because that would have meant 2 women's segments would have had to have taken place on this week's Dynamite, and they cannot do that, or they'll get a nosebleed or something. Tony Khan and his pals, nosebleeds everywhere. But that's it, I think, for all your WTF moments from this week's AEW Dynamite. I've been Ross Twiddell from Cultaholic.com. Gimmick Infringement Kane is in the corner crying, asking Adam Pacitti for a pay raise. Should he get one, or should he just stop appearing in these videos because he's becoming too overbearing? You let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next time.